Space, the final frontier. To boldly go and oh my god, that's how you get space herpes! Welcome to Deep Thoughts While Gaming. I'm Chris Chappell. Today I'm playing Mass Effect. And of course I'm playing as the Renegade, the bad guy route. Apparently 92% of you chose the goody two-shoes Paragon route. Lame! The first Mass Effect game came out in 2007 by BioWare, who gave us such classics as the original Baldur's Gate, Jade Empire, Knights of the Old Republic, and Dragon Age. Then, EA Games, the all-devouring, took over and they gave us Mass Effect 3. That ending was so controversial and widely protested, even the Better Business Bureau had to weigh in on whether BioWare had engaged in false advertising. But don't worry, no spoilers here. For a game that's over 10 years old, Mass Effect puts you in the role of Commander Shepard, a completely customizable character. But wait, if you make Shepard a woman, how does the romance work with, Mass Effect takes place in the far distant future, where humanity has evidently joined basically the Space UN. Babylon 5 did it better. There are many different alien races, the Asari, a species that somehow evolved to be exclusively in the form of hot human females bearing a strong maternal instinct and being able to reproduce with a partner of any gender or species. Captain Kirk, eat your heart out. Quarians, who also seem to look like hot human females that you can sleep with. Did you know that a lot of young teenage boys play video games? Turians, kind of a reptile insect thing that you can sleep with. Lex did it better. And the Solarians, they're fish people. You can't sleep with them. And then there are the Reapers, a sentient machine race that swoops through the galaxy every 50,000 years, killing everybody. They don't want to sleep with you. The Mass Effect trilogy, despite its commercial and critical success, had one fundamental flaw. Aliens are stupid. I don't mean they aren't intelligent. The whole idea of aliens is stupid. In every science fiction property ever created, aliens and humans casually interact as if it were no big deal. Just slap on a universal translator and you're good to go. You can make alliances, go to war, and other things. Think about how absurd that is. Humans and chimpanzees have only a trivial difference in DNA, and yet you don't see humans and chimpanzees setting up interspecies trade pacts, and human-chimp romance options are extremely discouraged. And yet you expect me to believe that a species that evolved on an entirely different planet with entirely different DNA, if they even have DNA, can understand a human. That's not just an issue of translation, it would be a fundamentally different form of consciousness. Now you might say that's an issue of sentience, but that's just another word for human consciousness. So what is consciousness? As the American philosopher Thomas Nagel points out in his book, What Is It Like to Be a Bat?, a human has no way to know what the experience of being a bat is like. But that doesn't mean a bat doesn't have a consciousness. In the 19th and early 20th century, many believed that humans alone were conscious. Everything else was just a mix of instincts and drives, basically mindless automatons. But we now know that not only do animals have a type of consciousness, so do plants. A 2017 study by the University of Western Australia's Centre for Evolutionary Biology discovered that if you play a recording of water, a plant's roots will grow toward the sound. Consciousness goes deeper than that. Emerging research on the gut microbiome shows that the bacteria in your gut has a type of consciousness as well, and can even communicate with another person's gut microbiome. But while your gut microbiome can affect your mood and behaviors, as anyone who's eaten at Arby's knows all too well, your consciousness sits above it and can override it, except when those horrible little sugar burners demand a cookie. So is there any reason to believe that the highest form of consciousness in the entire universe is an individual human being? Or could our consciousness, like our gut microbiome, perhaps be part of something greater too? Social psychologists have observed what they call a herd mentality, sometimes called a mob mentality or hive mind. An individual's consciousness can become slaved to the group. You see this behavior in the old Nazi rallies. Looking at the crowds, it becomes clear that their individual consciousness was subsumed by the group. They aren't a group of individuals who independently made the conscious decision to be evil, but the mob has its own larger consciousness driving the individuals in it. It's as if they're possessed by a spirit. 18th and 19th century German philosophers called this the zeitgeist, or spirit of the age, an invisible agent or force driving society. Perhaps the most terrifying spirit we deal with every year is the spirit of Christmas. Like the Kuroko of Kabuki theater, stagehands dressed in black that you aren't supposed to see but guide and influence the actors. These spirits have been with humanity since ancient times. Now hold on to your butts, because this is where we get into some real spooky kabuki. Karl Marx proposed what he called historical materialism. Everything humans do, art, government, religion, are inventions of humans arising out of economic necessity. So we would expect, looking back at the archaeological record of the earliest human settlements, that we would first see people coming together to take care of the basic needs of survival: food, shelter, reproduction. Later, as they became more secure in their basic needs, religion would develop. That is not what we see. Deep in what is modern Turkey, archaeologists have discovered one of the first permanent human settlements, Gobekli Tepe. It was built 11,000 years ago, but it wasn't a trade outpost where primitive man could exchange food or clothing. The Smithsonian calls it the world's oldest temple. That's right, contrary to Marx, when humans first gather in permanent settlements, it's not for economic activity, but for religion. According to Klaus Schmidt, the archaeologist who discovered Gobekli Tepe, building the stone monoliths would have required hundreds of workers who needed food and housing. Ancient nomadic people lived on the edge of survival. Why would multiple groups choose to pilgrimage to Gobekli Tepe and build a permanent temple? What made that particular place so special? Unless something was going on there that they felt was necessary for their survival. Something that wasn't just the imagination of one person, which would have been dismissed over more practical concerns, but was an experience or encounter repeatedly shared by multiple groups of people. Perhaps they encountered a spirit. Stanford University archaeologist Ian Hodder believes Gobekli Tepe is the real origin of complex Neolithic societies and therefore all human civilization. And it wasn't for practical materialistic reasons, as most scholars assume today, but for communion with spirits. In the millennia that followed, human religious activities sprang up in remarkably similar ways, despite different times, locations, and cultures, through oracles, magic, and sacrifice. Sacrifices have taken many forms, but perhaps one of the most disturbing is human sacrifice. No one knows how or why the practice began, but it appeared all over the world, from the ancient Near East to China to Mesoamerica, and the methods and techniques were strikingly similar. Why did the Carthaginians turn to child sacrifice to appease the spirits they worshipped? What experience made them think that would work? That wasn't just Roman propaganda. Modern archaeology has confirmed the mass sacrifice of children in Carthage, much like that spirit guiding the Nazis. For many ancient cultures, war was also a spirit, and people would give themselves over to the control of this higher consciousness, whip themselves up into a mindless group frenzy to commune with it through acts of brutality on their neighbors. Just read the Iliad. Sacrifices are treated as military technology, equally as important as the phalanx. Ancient people talked about spirits as if they were having real interactions with some alien consciousness. Interestingly, in Christian theology, Christ was supposed to have defeated many of these spirits. And in the years after his crucifixion, Greek philosopher Plutarch lamented in his book De Defectu Oraculorum, or The Failure of Oracles, that the demons oracles were interacting with seemed to have either withdrawn or died. It should be said that back then demons did not carry the pejorative it does today. But what is clear is that in their own words, they were having encounters with spirits that one day stopped. Even today, people under the effects of psychedelics recount tales of shared encounters with beings called machine or clockwork elves. Now, I'm not saying all these spirits were aliens, but different religions have given their takes on what these beings are. There are also pseudoscientific takes. that this is all just somehow part of what Carl Jung calls the collective human unconsciousness that exists somehow. But for extraterrestrial life to truly have a consciousness like humans, as depicted in Mass Effect and other science fiction, that would suggest some kind of universal human patterning of consciousness, which could be the greatest proof of an ultimate creator. So you know what that means, boys. Time to evangelize the aliens! At least until the Reapers return. Thank you for watching Deep Thoughts While Gaming. And remember, when encountering alien species, it's always a good idea to use protection. Please help support our efforts to convert the aliens by hitting that join button. That will give Deep Thoughts While Gaming the resources I need to spread the good word through the stars. That you can get exclusive emojis, a Discord server, live streams, videos, and my eternal love by hitting that join button.